Hello and welcome to another Optelec Enhanced Vision video. Today I'm very pleased to announce that I'm joined by Laura Walker and Jamie Bruce from Visibility. So hello to you both.
Hiya.
Hello. Hi.
So as always when I start these videos, I'd like to really to introduce yourselves to the viewers, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your roles, and then once you've done that, maybe one of you, maybe yourself, Laura, can tell us a little bit about what Visibility is and maybe some of its history. So would you like to go first?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Laura Walker. I am currently the acting CEO at Visibility. I'm Visibility Scotland. Some background about Visibility Scotland. We are over 160 years old. Our name has changed many times over the years, and actually last November we rebranded and changed from Visibility to Visibility Scotland, giving us a national presence. There has been some restructuring because our current CEO, Louise Hunter, is leaving us for pastures new at Who Cares Scotland. So I have stepped up into the role for just now, and there has been various kind of staff structure changes, but they've all been really positive, and it's come about during coronavirus, and I think that makes us quite agile at a time that's very changeable. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add, Jamie?
Yeah, and Jamie, I would obviously give your role, or should I say roles there.
Roles.
Well. Yes.
Okay, hello. Yeah, I'm Jamie Bruce. I've been working for Visibility for 9 years, Visibility Scotland for coming up in 1 year. So like just almost exactly 10 years that I've been working for the organisation in quite a lot of different hats I've had on over that time. Currently, I am now the project lead for a couple of different projects that we're doing. One of which is the rehabilitation service that we're providing for visually impaired people in West Lothian. Another one is, and has been for a while, is our social enterprise, in which we, it's how I know you, Paul, from the resource centre, which we've had in the centre at Queen's Crescent for some time. So that's where I'm the lead for that, where you can come and look at aids and equipment and try out some things and devices and stuff. And also, at the moment, I'm the project lead for our new an exciting project, the Shine On Access project. More of that later. Yeah,
absolutely, and discuss that a little bit more later. So for those people who don't know what Visibility Scotland is about, would you like to maybe give a bit more of its history and just what areas that it does cover?
So we are one of the leading sight loss charities in Scotland. Before we became Visibility Scotland, we covered 13 local authorities. So we were kind of Glasgow in the west and Dumfries and Galloway. And then when we changed our name, that was to expand our reach so that we could reach everybody living with sight loss in Scotland. We had been providing some services across Scotland, and we've got an information line that many people can tap into across the UK. So we felt it was time to change our name to kind of meet the need of our service users.
Okay. So yeah, Jamie.
So yeah, we've got, as I say, with Laura's to add to what Laura's saying, we've got lots and lots of different sort of reach, not least of which is the patient support service that we have in all the hospitals within Glasgow, and also NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, that is, and also the hospital in Lanarkshire, where we've got a patient support service, which is supporting patients in the eye departments at point of, I was going to say registration there, but it's not, it's diagnosis as well. So, you know, you can get the referrals coming in from the hospital staff, and we've got a patient support worker in situ at the hospitals where they can be seen. We also have community workers in the in the community, in the local areas,
Okay.
sort of that kind of thing, as well as the core staff in the centre. So
Okay.
we've got quite an extensive reach, more so now. So that's
absolutely more so now, because it is more nationwide, as opposed to just the originally west of Scotland, which was still a sizable area anyway, but yeah, obviously now even more so. So in that respect, how has the organisation been affected during the pandemic, basically? And again,
well, I would speaking for myself. I was one of the staff who Visibility Scotland took the opportunity to furlough some of its staff, which I think quite a lot of charities and organisations have done.
That's happened everywhere. So
yeah. And I was one of those people. From when let's think when it would have been April. So the sort of end of March, April was when the decision was made to furlough some of our staff, and from then through to August was basically that was my frustration.
Yeah, it's been a problem, obviously, nationwide, and it's never a good thing, but in many ways, actually, it's kept everybody as part of the team, which is a good thing on that side.
Yeah, and a different story without it. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, I would imagine that even though, yeah, it's been a terrible year. Let's face it. There's no hiding that from anybody. But how have you been able to still provide a service, even though the service has probably changed dramatically in ways that you would never even guessed at the beginning of the year? So how have you been really supporting your clients during the pandemic? And again.
To give a wee bit of background, when we went into lockdown, the decision was made that our face-to-face services would stop, would be postponed, and I think that's kind of across the UK. Yeah. So our patient support services that are based in hospitals meant that they couldn't operate face-to-face. Our community work couldn't operate face-to-face. We couldn't do home visits through our rehab. And really it meant that the staff team weren't working in the office and were now working at home. So what we were able to provide from day one of lockdown was that emotional support over the telephones. And the need of people then to now has changed quite dramatically, because when we were phoning our service users then, many of whom are very, very vulnerable, who aren't maybe just dealing with visual impairment, they've maybe had a stroke, or there's something else going on there. So for a lot of the people, they were shielding. So, how am I going to get my shopping? Is there still food in the shops? How do I get my prescriptions? How do I see the doctor if I need to go? Those were the sort of panic questions that we were dealing with. So our phone lines were immensely busy. We do have an information line that is manned Monday to Friday, 9 till 4, and that was pre-COVID. Yes. But that's where every kind of staff member stepped into that role. We all have our own caseload, which is big. So it meant that we were continuing to support everybody that we were working with. So maybe somebody previously that you would have only met once for a resource room appointment, that was somebody that we were trying to keep in contact with weekly to make sure that they were okay. Yeah. For many of those people, their cataract operations had been postponed, their low vision assessments had been cancelled, they couldn't get to the high street optician, and there was the fear. So even if there was hospital appointments, do you want to go get your injection when you're maybe going into somewhere that's high risk of COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
All these things were prominent. And a lot of, we needed to provide a lot of support, and there was a lot of uncertainty within the staff as well, because we were all adjusting to this new way of life, and you know, there was the emotional support on the phone kind of 9 till 5 is exhausting.
Yeah.
So it was trying to kind of make sure that we were keeping our teams energized and delivering the service that needed at that time. During that time, we developed, in conjunction with Optometry Scotland, the Ask the Expert service.
Yes, yeah.
So that allowed our service users to be able to speak to optometrists through conference calls about maybe some of their concerns, where they could maybe ask the optometrist the clinical questions, and then there would be 1 or 2 of our staff members who would be able to offer support maybe on strategies for reading, or little hints and tips around the house, or where they could buy pieces of equipment that they might be able to, you know, they might need now. There was, for some people, their anti-glare glasses might have broken, or their magnifiers, so where they could get these pieces of equipment. Absolutely. So that was probably one of our biggest projects that was born during coronavirus. In August, we work very closely with NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, and also Lanarkshire with our patient support services. So we've kept in contact, and we're still receiving all our referrals. But it became apparent that the low vision clinics were starting to have quite lengthy waiting lists, and that's due to the fact that the hospitals are at reduced capacity, so they can, you know, it's 50% of the people that they can invite into the clinics, meaning they've got all the consultants working there. However, they can't have those busy eye departments that we're all so familiar with, which means that there's going to be a backlog, that there's going to be long waiting lists. So it was decided that because our offices at Visibility weren't back up and running, staff were still working at home, that actually we had a really safe environment that wasn't really doing anything. It had been mothballed. So we set it up very quickly, and the low vision clinic, some of the low vision clinics operate from Visibility, meaning that patients can park right outside our office. There's disabled parking, and that they're coming into an environment that's very safe. There's no other patients in the waiting room, and they will go in and see their NHS optometrist, and then they have the opportunity to meet a trained member of our staff who would normally be the patient support. And I guess the beauty of that appointment is we have then the resource room, which we moved internally in Visibility into one of our bigger rooms, meaning that we were within COVID guidelines. It's a big, spacious, airy room. It's probably 4 meters by 4 easily. And people could try out big pieces of equipment, and also small, something like a bump on to, you know, a CCTV. Which means then that people don't need to return for multiple visits, which is probably the way the system worked pre-COVID, because you would go to your low vision assessment, you might meet somebody from patient support, and then we would invite you over to Visibility to come and see all the aids and equipment that we have, whereas patients just now are getting that service, that one-stop shop.
Well, I've just, you took the words out of my mouth. It is kind of a one-stop shop in that respect, and actually, hopefully, that's something that will be looked at to continue, because clearly, I would say that's a positive, because it's something that it's been forced upon you in a way, but you've actually made the best of it and actually improved it. So now, an individual, as you say, a patient can come in to a totally safe environment, probably even, dare I say it, safer than the hospital itself. Get the
it's like one in,
exactly.
One out, that's it.
So getting the magnifier, and then at the same time they can see somebody else to be shown what else is out there, because as we know, it's not just about magnification. It's lighting, it's anti-glare shields, it's
the time as well, Paul, time to discuss things. You know, and that's often that's always been the case working in patient support, as Laura and I both have done. It's given people the time just to talk. Yeah, absolutely. And from your point of view, especially
the, you know, the IT side, which I think that's originally where I know you from. One of the things that we found rather interesting, and again, not expected at all, we always assumed, again, wrongly, that the majority of the older generation are not really tech aware. We know as we grow up with it, we're more tech aware with a smartphone and touchscreens and voice activated things. And a lot of the older like, oh no, that's too much for me. Actually, this year has proved that people
not
are.
the case. Especially well, coming back as I did from furlough in when did I say? In August. So yeah, so starting back up in August, and I was only really starting part time a couple of days a week, but there was obviously the referrals were there. There's the people to talk to, and I'm phoning people who are of a generation that you may not be expecting to be able to use the technology that we're talking about, but it was literally not the case, because of course you're kind of forced into it, aren't you? Because they've been, maybe I have to FaceTime my family now because I'm not going to see them face to face, or I'm going to have to learn to use Zoom, and then it's talking to people on the phone and virtually supporting them how to use these devices. Now, not easy in terms of
no, it's not.
You could be getting, someone who is maybe not all too familiar with the gestures needed on voiceover, and you're not in a position where you could do as we're doing here, like a Zoom call or anything like that. So you're on the phone listening. No, turn up the volume while you hear the voiceover gestures to find out where they are. Is it, swipe left, let me listen, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, so exciting times. I think it is the way forward anyway, how we're moving now in this kind of the virtual training that we're going to have to be setting up and working towards and doing, and these are the kind of like some positives. Another positive is like how we've moved the resource centre into a bigger room, caused not in small part because the bigger room's now available because it's not being used by the singing group or the guitar group who were in it. So pre-COVID, that's why they were using that room. And as you can remember, I was in a small room, and
I do remember. Yes,
just off reception, and it wasn't a case of showing you over to something. It was, hang on, and I'll bring this out the cupboard to show it.
I do remember, absolutely. But again, I do look at it and I see it as a positive, and people kind of have stepped up to the mark and say, well, yeah, before I wouldn't be interested in learning this technology, but actually, I kind of have been forced. But actually, I'm glad because it's opened up a whole new world for them to meet virtually instead. So, it's been pardon the expression, but an eye opener when it comes to that. So again, let's move forward. So you mentioned, you alluded to earlier on there, Jamie, about some plans.
Sorry to interrupt. We're talking about the positive things and stuff that was happening as well. One of the really good things that the Visibility Scotland were doing over and during lockdown was the work that our Children and Families project got up to, because they just went online. And as you can imagine, supporting the younger generation, they're all pretty much on. They are online and they're able to use this equipment. So it was like, instead of having the groups that they would meet up and they would have the physical contact, they had the online contact, and they had WhatsApp groups, and they had Zoom sessions, and they had talent shows.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was every week, but they had some talent shows, which I don't know if there was any winners really that came out of that, but there was a few dubious thing, and they had as well.
Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, exactly. And in the WhatsApp group for the I remember them say they had joke o'clock as well, so that it may have been something like 3 o'clock every afternoon. Bing! Somebody put a joke up just to just keep it, because these are the again, it's everyone's in it, and the kids were not able to see their classmates, to be there and physically at school or anything like that, so they were in it as much as anyone else.
No, so, absolutely. So again, a lot of work has been done in the background. It's not always acknowledged or even advertised, but it's still there. It's still working, and I think that's why for charities it's vitally important to get this sort of information across. Because I honestly, from time and time again, the amount of people say, "Oh, I had no idea that service existed." Well, why didn't you know? Was it maybe people not asking in some cases, or people not or maybe you telling them information, but of course you are very aware that just because you tell somebody doesn't mean to say they remember it.
Yeah, and also it's the linking up, because the there's a lot of saying you're getting the people who all they have is a phone number, and that's us. And so they've got the phone number for Visibility Scotland, so they phone up that number, they get one of our either patient support or the community workers answering the phone, and they have done the work in the background to research, right, where you stay, this is what you can get, you can tap into this, that, and the next thing. So it's making that link as well, and it's just keeping everybody's spirits up, really, as well, isn't it?
That's so important, so important, and the mental aspect can't be underestimated.
What do you call a fear of giants?
Go on.
Well, we can't remember it. B5 phobia.
Okay.
That's from the Joker clock.
Don't give up the day job.
So enter the talent contest.
Exactly. So moving forward, then, what plans have you got? To continue a lot of these type of Zoom-based, Teams-based telephone support lines, extended telephone support line. I mean, I know we're going to continue so much of this type of thing, even after we're hopefully back normal. So yourselves, is that something that you think you'll continue, or?
Absolutely. It's allowed us, it's given us time to research what works. I think most organisations, most charities will have felt the pressure that you were firefighting before, and probably, although you would have wanted to explore technology in this and using it in this method, this style, we probably didn't allow ourselves to have the time. But actually, just as you say, it's been thrusted upon us all, but we've all realised actually this is great. I don't need to travel down to England to have a meeting with somebody. Actually, we can do it from the comfort of our own home. But it does allow us to expand our reach, and it does allow us to make that reach bigger for the amount of people you see at one time. A lot of the information that we share with our service users is very repetitive. So it's an opportunity where you can create groups, get the information across, and then there's peer support there as well, where people can talk amongst themselves about what's been successful and what's not. And that's something at Visibility Scotland we've always felt is the most powerful message. Quite often we create groups and then we sit back, and although we've maybe said a hint or tip, if somebody says it that's using it every day, it's far more effective and far more powerful.
Actually, I fully agree with that one. Again, a lot of the macular support groups out there, the amount of times you've had a dear 85-year-old lady who says, "Oh, I've got something that I learned the other day when I'm in the kitchen," and she says it, and it might be the most innocent thing in the world and the most maybe the obvious thing, but the amount of people who go, "Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah. That's such a good idea." And
they'll try it.
Yeah, and exactly, and you wouldn't get that on the one-to-one stuff. So again, we've all had to change the way we do things, but yeah, clearly it's working. So it's nice to hear that yous are also going to continue down that same vein. So again, I'm going to go back over then, because Jamie, you mentioned future plan projects. So tell me all about them.
The one to talk about really that I'd like to mention especially is the Shine On Access project. Now again, we're leaning heavily on these young shoulders, but this came from the young people themselves from the children and families in their meetings, and they're one of their Zoom groups and the meetings and the discussions that they were having. It arose that they felt, and there was a feeling that they weren't enough credence wasn't being given to their needs in terms of what they needed by way of assistive technology and accessibility. Now that's both in in education, but also in their, just like in their day-to-day living, you know, like in social media, when they're like, you know, they're looking at stuff on Twitter or Facebook, and it's they can't read it. They can't, you know, they're looking at, somebody's putting up posts and you can't see it because the you know, like the picture hasn't been described effectively enough, or not at all.
Yes.
And you know, so, and if you're like using a screen reader, then how frustrating that is. You know, I mean, I think we know what it can be like in the business we work in, but it's that awareness that people don't have, you know. So they also came up with the name Shine On Access, which that's a Shine On Access. So they wanted to put a spotlight on this problem. So the ultimate aim, and it's a short project. It's not, you know, it's not going to take, well, it's not going to take a long time because we don't have a long time to deliver it. So it's just going to be in 6 months' time, and the end goal is we will have a toolkit. We'll have a piece of research there, and a resource which can be accessed by children or young people, their families, professionals in education, anybody that needs to see it, which is going to be detailing and listing the assistive technology, you know, like your equipment, and I'm going to probably have some of your wonderful how-to videos that you've spent a while making, Paul.
Feel free.
There'll be links to that, as you can imagine, and there'll be links to the videos, and they'll be listed, you know. So if you needed to know, for example, how to work a CCTV, that I don't quite know how to turn that on, then you'd be able to look that up. There's that CCTV, here's the video, that's how you find it. It would be very easy to find. Along with that, we're going to have to put in, I think, quite a bit about accessibility as well, which you know is the big thing. And also we're going to have videos of the young people themselves, which is probably the most powerful part of it. That there's going to be like a video bank of them saying, here is my challenge that I'm facing, and this is the piece of equipment I'm using to deal with it, and this is how I use this. So this is the reason why you know that things have to be the way that they are for me. You know, that kind of thing.
So you can go through the whole process.
Exactly.
Okay.
And especially I think now more than ever is it important, because there's not the same face to face, and you know, you've got that issue with the kids and the problems where you've got the restrictions that like the QTVIs have got, the qualified teachers of visual impairment have got, and they're restricted that they can't go and access and deliver the same support because they've got so many people to see, but they can only see, you can only see one a day, or when you know, so it makes that, so to have that toolkit available, I think is going to be a very powerful resource in the end.
Absolutely. No, that sounds like a great idea.
We were also informed by many of the parents during lockdown that they maybe hadn't been taught how to use or support their child with their assistive technology. So when you go into lockdown and
your homeschooling
work's coming through electronically, and you don't know how to support your child with this piece of kit because it's always been done at school, it's never come home, and then all of a sudden you're stuck. And that's the same, although we're back in education, if you're tracked and traced, you have to self-isolate, and all that needs to be at home, and parents need to be able to support their children. So it's really come about at a time of need.
No, exactly, and that's why it's such a good idea. And honestly, I've seen it myself. You know, obviously we have a number of schools and colleges and stuff like with people with sight impairment, and not surprisingly, we had a very similar situation. People were being given the equipment to send home, to use at home, and of course the parents were like, "How does this work? How do I plug it in? What's it do?" They never needed to know about it, and now all of a sudden they were the teacher. And so that was a lot of time. So the fact that using this project to showcase step-by-step process, I think is a brilliant idea. And
yeah, it's also part of the project is supporting the young people themselves.
Yeah,
and that could be not so much the assistive technology, but accessibility and mainstream devices. You know, your smartphones, tablets, because as well know we spoke about that, the accessibility in some of them, and various you know, well, how many apps do you want to list? But you can, you know, there's all these apps and things like some of the wearable technology and stuff like that you can get these days.
Absolutely.
Some of the pretty cool stuff, you know. So absolutely, that's part and parcel of it, is training of across, like, you know, making the toolkit, training across the board, and delivering that. So yeah, encouraging people to get in touch to find out more.
Okay, so and that kind of leads me on. Like, finally, is there anything else that you would like to get across to the audience? And B, we will be putting your links to the video anyway, and all the social media things with your web addresses and all that. But again, if you wish to say that again now, then please do.
Yeah, fab. I guess one of the things we haven't spoken about is we're just about to start our face-to-face community work. And although our face-to-face community work would normally be in people's local areas, in community venues, and for the most vulnerable, it'd be home visits. And that's not something, we're not at that stage yet. But what we are going to start to do is use our central office, Queen's Crescent in Glasgow, to provide one-to-one appointments in the same environment that we've developed in collaboration with NHS, making sure that it's, you know, it meets COVID guidelines. And that's going to start fairly soon, within the next week or two. And that's going to be for the most vulnerable people who maybe don't have the family support, who can't tap into the tech, who are really struggling. Maybe they don't know how to use their low vision aid, or you know, they don't know how to read their mail.
It's going to give people, sorry, Laura, it's going to give people the opportunity to, you know, to get in to speak to someone in the resource centre and one of, like, the patient support workers, community workers, without having that the kind of the going through the low vision clinic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So instead of lots of disjointed things where the individual has to go from A to B to C, maybe again, you mentioned it is a kind of stop shop, and you can go there and see different people. And I see how that would feel.
Yeah, and as Laura's saying, that it's working exactly the same way as we've built up the process, and how it's safe to come, you know, to come in. So and that being said, it is limited and restricted numbers to keep it that way.
But like you say, you've already got the system in place, and you have had since you took over some of the sort of community low vision in the office anyway. So it's already there. You're just expanding on it, but within the same guidelines. So I think that's really good. And like you say, there is obviously people out there who do need that aspect, because they're not tech aware, and they never will be, for various reasons.
But we know, you know that from we talk to people on the phone, and you know that they're just, well, I'd like to come and see it, and you're like, just hang on, we're working on it, we'll get there. And this is, you know, so we're quite happy to say that, we're very happy, in fact, delighted to say that we are getting there, and that's happening very soon.
Excellent. That's
so
great.
Just to clarify, our low vision clinic is NHS led. So the people who attend the low vision clinic are NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde patients, and then they are offered to come along and meet a member of Visibility. And the difference will be, for the community led project, that will be visibility service users who have been raising their hand during coronavirus to say, I'm not understanding how to use this piece of equipment, or I really, you know, I just really need to see somebody. And this gives us an opportunity to invite our most vulnerable into our offices. And then hopefully, as restrictions start to ease, again, we can roll that model, that template that we've got, out into the community.
Not to say that we're stopping the virtual contact, because I think that that's a quite a powerful tool that we've all been learning and how to use
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. They can both sit along side by side. So yeah, and again, that's how I think most people, most organisations are going to move forward. So that's a really positive thing. Well, guys, that's brilliant. I'd like to thank you both again for sharing the time.
Well, thank you, Paul. It's been a long time coming since you were.
Yeah, it is. We've tried to tie this one down many times, so I'm glad that we've finally done it. But so yeah, again, thank you very much, guys. That's been brilliant. And
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck, and we'll hopefully see you face to face in the very near future.
Here's hoping.
Okay, great stuff.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Bye.